Thank you, Mike. The Penn State scandal was a scandal that rocked the nation as well as left the administrators at Penn State shrugging their shoulders. Since the sex abuse scandal, including more than 10 boys by Jerry Sandusky, the people of Pennsylvania and the world have been asking, why did this happen if we have such regulations in place? The people of Pennsylvania, according to Trib Live, Megan Satania on December 31st, 2014, she says, the changes are needed mainly to child protective service laws that are 40 years out of date and are inadequate. Rachel Berger, who served on the task force that evaluated these laws, says, the system didn't help. It was Sandusky that made it happen. A cryptic response to such a horrific event, but sadly rang true. The Trib Live went on to explain how exactly the laws would change to better mandate as a resource for victims instead of a dead end. The biggest change will be the definition of abuse and who it is being reported to. Before Wednesday, for actions to be considered child abuse, a child had to be in severe pain with serious impairment. The changes to the law lower that threshold to what is called substantial pain, said Jonathan Budd, Executive Director of Kids Voice, a child advocacy law firm in Pittsburgh. And a number of acts like kicking a child or locking him or her in a closet, he said, would now be considered abuse, lowering the threshold for police to better investigate and convict child predators and abusers. Another change, according to Trib Live, was to better aid victims of sexual abuse if it occurred in a professional setting such as a doctor's office or a school. It would be directly reported to the state and no longer would be reported to the superiors of this facility. The new laws wouldn't put up a wall to determine if the abuse was actually committed. It would be reported electronically via a hotline and not wait until someone could prove an issue. An additional issue that would be addressed would be the lack of training in handling such situations. Child welfare advocates would be attending new training to help manage child abuse so they are better equipped to handle and follow through on these cases. What ultimately happened to the group culture, or simply Penn State itself, was the administrators band together to show they didn't stand for such a horrific event that occurred because of a former employee. Group culture is the belief and moral system a group or like-minded individuals share. According to Mary Beth Marklin of USA Today on November 2nd, 2012, she says, the president of Penn State held a candlelight vigil to unite Penn State and the community together as a strong stand against child sex abuse. The university has also shown a strong effort in completing the 119 tasks the FBI agent Louis Freeh had put in place to better guard the students at the university. One of them being hiring a full-time officer to ensure compliance with federal crime reporting requirements and publicly posting the contracts of key officials including the president, head football coach, and acting athletic director. USA Today also reports that the students and faculty have expressed a divide in how they feel towards the investigation of the case. One senior even comments that Penn State students are eager to learn from these mistakes, but as equally important to make sure something like this never happens again. Now you are probably wondering what happened to Second Mile Charity that Jerry Sandusky was involved with. Group vision is a message or an image a group of people want to portray to the public. While the public turned a fierce eye to them because they were supposed to protect and mentor kids, instead they became innocent victims to a hunting predator. According to Brad Heath from USA Today on November 14, 2011, he says via a quote from a lawyer, Jeff Herman, that responded to the accountability of the charity by saying, if they really wanted to find out the truth, they could have. One allegation is a red flag. It puts you on notice. If after that point you don't do anything, it's on you. For organizations such as these, they require background checks on employees around children, but Pennsylvania does not. The organization went on to say that they had done such checks. Since the investigation of Sandusky, the organization's president and many employees have either resigned or been laid off. The organization is in the process of being turned over to another that helps children, but because of the pending lawsuits, all of the transfer has been halted. Jerry Sandusky was the original man involved in the scandal. He was the man doing awful and horrific things to young boys behind closed doors. According to CNN, he was sentenced and found guilty on June 22, 2012, and according to ABC News, he is sentenced to 30 to 60 years for what he has done to his 10 victims. He abused his power as an organizational leader and supposed advocate for children. CNN reported that Joe Pantero died at 85 before he could be convicted of any wrongdoing or lack of reporting of sexual abuse he admittedly said he had reported. He was fired by a rule of vote from the Penn State Committee in November of 2011. According to ESPN, Mike McQueary was the whistleblower who received backlash and has since filed a $4 million whistleblower lawsuit against Penn State for expected lost wages after his contract wasn't renewed in the summer of 2012. He said he suffers irreparable harm to his ability to earn a living. Because Penn State refused to renew his contract because of his truthful testimony against Sandusky, as well as damning testimony against Tim Curley and Gary Schultz. Mike McQueary was the man that had actually witnessed a lewd act between Sandusky and a 10-year-old boy in the showers of the locker room. As for Tim Curley, Gary Schultz, and former Penn State President Graham Spainer, their cases are still pending in the involvement of the cover-up and lack of reporting that resulted in 4 more boys being abused because they didn't come forward and report to police. Jerry Sandusky was the original man with the bad idea, but Curley, Schultz, and Spainer are just as at fault because of their inability to follow through on protocol. They should have reported the allegations and turned over witnesses from the beginning instead of trying to protect the university's image. Next, we have Courtney speaking on how we can avoid another scandal like this.